All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice exam series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Your son has a habit of putting his hand in his mouth when he is sitting or standing idly. You want to increase an alternative behavior such as putting his hands at his side or behind his back. Which of the following options would you not use to teach the alternative behavior? Now, what is the question asking? It's asking what you wouldn't use to teach an alternative behavior. The question is testing your knowledge on what principle is crucial when teaching something, especially teaching a different behavior. Well, we need reinforcement, right? In order to teach something, we want to reinforce a behavior to increase that behavior, especially if it's a new behavior. If it's a new behavior, we're typically going to use some sort of continuous reinforcement schedule or some sort of thick reinforcement schedule where a lot of reinforcement is delivered in a short amount of time. So this question is just simply asking, do you understand what we need to teach? Because the question wants to know, what would you not use? Because you want to teach an alternative behavior to putting hand in mouth, like putting hands aside or behind his back. And so we need to reinforce putting hands aside or putting hands behind back. So let's look at A. Could you use positive reinforcement to encourage or increase hands aside or behind his back? Sure, that is a feasible option to teach this sort of alternative behavior. Could you shape? Could you use B, shaping? Absolutely. If this is a new behavior, if we're teaching your son to put his hands behind his back, we might need to shape that behavior. So you could absolutely use shaping to teach an alternative behavior. Could you use token economies? Of course, token economies have to do with reinforcement schedules. We're going to be delivering tokens and exchanging tokens for reinforcement. We can reinforce putting hands aside or behind his back. All three of these strategies are viable to teach this alternative behavior. So our answer here would be D, none of the above. This isn't necessarily a difficult question, but if you're not reading carefully, or if you don't understand the idea of reinforcement or the interventions we can use to teach, then you could struggle with this question, which again is why fluency is so important. And so if we want to teach an alternative behavior, we can use positive reinforcement, we can shape, or we can use token economies. David is working with a client who has been making significant progress in reducing her aggressive behaviors. One day, the client's dad asked David to provide a written testimonial about the progress the client has made for her school records. David knows that sharing information about clients must be done carefully to ensure confidentiality and ethical compliance. What should he do? Now, as the technician, this is a difficult spot to be put in. For one, you as a technician to write some sort of testimonial about the progress, you really should get approval first from your supervisor. And your supervisor should definitely sign off on whatever you write. Remember, your role as the RBT is typically implementation. You're implementing the plan. Ongoing progress monitoring, ongoing progress reporting is often the work of your supervisor. So if you're asked this question, always clear with your supervisor first. Second, your client and your client's parents, you can share that information with them, but they want you to share it with the school. And so what we have to remember is privacy is of utmost importance. So we have things like HIPAA, we have ethical codes, we have all these privacy ideas to protect our clients. And so the only people you should be sharing client information with is really the clients and their core stakeholders, unless you know for certain that other people or other stakeholders have access to that information. So if David wants to share that information, but still wants to ensure confidentiality and be ethical, what should he do? A, write the testimonial, but keep it anonymous. Well, the issue isn't that it's coming from David. It's the fact that he's sharing this information and then reporting it as a fact to the school. So just by keeping it anonymous doesn't change the other issues that David might have writing this testimonial. B, explain that the testimonial would violate privacy and that he can't do it. That's not necessarily true either. This kind of thing is going to happen all the time. In fact, it's good to collaborate with schools and other therapies and other service providers. So it's not that he can't do it. He just needs to take one more step, which is going to be C. Tell the mom that he will first get approval from a supervisor before writing anything. And these questions might seem a little straightforward and redundant. It's always ask your supervisor, ask your supervisor. That's because that is typically the best route to take, according to the task list, according to ethics, and just good practice. As the RBT, whenever you're put in a situation like this, always, always, always go to your supervisor first. It's the best way to avoid any issues at all. Dave is asked to write a testimonial. He asks his supervisor. The supervisor then gives him direction on what to do. And then D, call the school personally so that the testimonial is not in writing. Again, that's not going to change the fact David is sharing confidential information and he doesn't quite have permission, or does he know he has permission yet? So what David wants to do is tell the mom that he will first get approval from a supervisor before writing anything. Justin is trying to eat more protein every day. On Thursday, Justin ate 120 grams. Then on Friday, he ate 150 grams. And finally on Saturday, he ate 170 grams. What was the average amount of protein that Justin ate each day? This looks like a math question. Don't panic. You have to know totals and you want to know averages because you might have to average some of your measurements. How do we find an average? Well, in this question, what we're going to do, we're going to look at what measurements we have so far. So far, we have 120 grams, 150 grams, 170 grams. We want to know the average that Justin ate each day. So how many days do we have? We have 3 days. So we're going to add up all of our data, which is 120 plus 150 plus 170, which is going to give us 440 divided by our total number of days. That's going to give us 146.6. And that's our average amount of protein that Justin ate each day. If you get a question that asks you, let's say, total duration or the average frequency, all it takes is a little bit of practice. If you're not sure how to find total and average, you make sure you ace those questions on your exam. Those should be layup questions. Again, to find this average, we have 3 days and our total data is 120 plus 170 plus 150, which we divide by our days. That's how we find our average. The average amount of protein that Justin ate each day is 146.6 grams. A behavior analyst is monitoring the frequency of hand-raising behavior in a classroom. During a 30-minute observation period, a student raised their hand 15 times. The behavior analyst wants to determine the rate of hand-raising behavior to assess the effectiveness of an intervention. How would they calculate this measurement? All right, back-to-back calculation questions. This time, the question wants to know, how do we find rate? We know the behavior analyst is monitoring frequency. They've done it during a 30-minute observation period, and they got a frequency of 15. Now they want to know, how do we find rate? So what is the formula for rate? Well, it's simply frequency over time. You take your frequency, you take your count, how many times you counted the behavior or whatever it is you're measuring, and then you divide it by a period of time. In this case, it would be 15 divided by 30. That's frequency divided by time. Now, the question wants to know, how do you calculate the measurement? So let's look at A. Divide the total number of hand raises by total observation time in minutes. In other words, to find rate, we would divide our frequency, hand raises, by time. A looks pretty good. What about B? Divide the total observation time by total number of hand raises. B would be dividing time by frequency, and rate equals frequency over time. And then C is multiply the total number of hand raises by the total observation time in minutes. We know rate is not found through multiplication. Same as D, subtraction, subtract the total number of hand raises from total observation time in minutes. It's not found through subtraction. How we're going to find that rate is divide frequency, total number of hand raises, by total observation time in minutes. Back-to-back measurement questions. Don't panic if you get a measurement question. It's asking you averages, or it's as simple as this. It's as straightforward as this. All it takes is a little bit of fluency practice, and you're going to start nailing these measurement questions. Which of the following choices is essential when you are defining a behavior or describing something that happened during your session with the client. Now let's think about that. If you're an RBT and you're asked to define a behavior or just describe something that happened during your session, what's the number one thing you want to make sure you do? You want to remain objective. And what does that mean? That means you don't want to give an opinion, an emotional account. You just want to state clearly exactly what happened during your session. And so, what is essential when defining a behavior or describing something that happened? Well, A, objectivity is essential. What about B, subjectivity? We don't want to be subjective. Subjective is your opinion, it might be your emotional account. We don't want to be subjective, especially when defining a behavior. What about the client's emotions? We don't want to bring into play emotions, which are these mental states that are hard to measure and hard to define. Same as the parent's feelings. Are those things important? Of course. When defining a behavior, however, objectivity and measurability are the two most important things. And so if you're going to be defining behaviors or describing something that happened during your session, the most essential piece is objectivity. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.